guys, this is Gems here. I'm here to give you guys a science lesson with a beat science video on why you have muddy mixes in the low end. Sometimes you understand that you shouldn't put low tones together because they're going to clash, but you might not scientifically understand what's going on to make that happen. So I'm here to show that for you guys. I have a sample project load up here. I just have a melody loop with a drum pattern underneath it. If I just let it play. So you can tell it's a little bit muddy in the low end. I'm going to solo these two low notes together, the kick, the 808. And now that's pretty obvious. I'm going to solo the kick so you can hear. It kind of has like a bassy aftertone to it. Continues on, and then this is the 808. So both of the waves that are produced from those are sine waves. And what's actually happening is that they're clashing together because when waves are combined together, they're added in what's called superposition. So to demonstrate what that really is, I made a science code. This is a science software that I use a lot, MatLab, for my science data. So let me just walk you through what's going on and why it applies to this. Right here, this is the start of the code. This is just going to plot a couple of graphs for us. It's going to plot a sine wave a certain amount of distance, so it's going to go so far, and it's going to oscillate at some frequency. So I give it some frequency here, and then this is the first wave, and this is the second wave. They're going to plot separately, and I made them two different frequencies so that you can kind of see what they look like on their own, and then when I add in the third image, it's going to add them together and you can see the effects of what happened. So I'm just going to run this code and talk about it. Okay, so for this first example here, this was the wave with just, standard one units. And it's going to oscillate repetitively. It's going to go this distance. And then this one's just a little bit quicker of a frequency, so you can tell it's going to cut in a little sooner from these notches over here. But first glance, you can't really tell the difference between these waves. But when you add them together in superposition, this is the feature you get. The features from here to here, here to here, here to here, those are called beating. So when you add them, the waves in superposition, they're going to combine when they're at their highest points or in the positive range, and then when there's a wave at its peak and its lowest trough, they're going to completely cancel out. So when the waves are oscillating up and down and they're going like this, they're going to do this and cut each other out. That's why you have to balance your speakers. When you have studio speakers, you have to point them in the right direction, or else the sound waves are going to cancel out. And what this is doing here is this is beating. So if I go into a bass note and I'm going to play something in my keyboard and record something, but I accidentally hit two notes together, that wobble is the beating that's going on. It's the two waves canceling each other out and adding into each other. So that's really why you get muddy mixes, is because the waves have that kind of characteristic when you add them together. Now, I think it's also important to understand what happens in the high end when this feature is happening. So I also made a code for the high end frequency. It's basically going to do the same exact thing, except I put in waves at a higher frequency. And I just want to show you why it's more obvious in the lower ends why you get clashing and not in the higher end. So now back at this, I made, instead of 1 for this first wave, I made it 10,000. And then this one, I made it 10,010. So when we add them together, we should see a similar feature, but it's going to look a little different. As slide these over here. So yeah, same features as before. If you're looking on your screen, you're going to see these lighter and darker regions. That's not a feature of beating. That's not a feature of what's going on here. This is just, you're putting a lot of waves in a small window. So the computer is just going to display it like this. I mean, I could pick a range to zoom in. Fiddle, let me. Yeah, so these are just regular waves, nothing fancy going on here. But same as before, we get beating, but now the difference that you might notice is that before there were only a few lines going up and down in here inside the beat, and now this is almost completely filled in at the higher frequency end. So what's happening is the waves are so high of frequency that you can kind of relate the frequency to speed. So they're going to overlap more and more just because they're moving faster and not slower. So you're going to get more features inside these beating, and that's why you don't really notice the clash as much, is just because it's oscillating much quicker. You can create harsh tones this way because when you have a harsh frequency and you add in another wave to it and it creates a harsher frequency, that's a result of beating. It's called resonance. So if you don't do some editing and some mixing in your sound selection and you have a harsh tone in the high end and you add another wave to it, because it's adding together, you're going to get this doubling effect and it's going to make the tone screech in the higher end. So I think that's important to understand what's going on with the waves. A way you can fix the effect of superposition is by doing some sidechain compression. You can do quick and easy methods, like you can come in here to this kick drum and you can shorten the length of this kick feature. So if I move the out button up, you can see how this end tail decreases. So that's just going to make sure that you're just getting the initial kick and the rest of the bass is doing the work with the resonance of the kick drum. So yeah, that's already a little bit better. Like I said, you can do side chain compression, you can do EQs and layer the tones together. But yeah, that's basically it. I hope the visuals were helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to answer some science questions, some physics questions. If you liked the video and like to see more, please like the video and subscribe. I'd like to do more beat science videos in the future. And for now, please follow me on Twitter and Instagram. My links are below. And stay tuned for another beat science video, some cookups, and some more tutorials. And have a great rest of your day. Peace.